Well, hello there, beautiful soul, and thank you so much for joining me in today's very special episode of Chat and Channel Session. In today's session, we're going to be deep diving on the mother wound and some of the ways that it could be showing up in your life, in your relationships, in your belief systems and psyche, and the ways that it could be limiting you, holding you back, or even making you sick, so that you can feel more empowered in your healing journey and in the expansion journey of your life and manifestations. I am making today's episode in honor of Mother's Day, but feel free to listen to this anytime that Spirit is calling you to it. It is filled with timeless material, but it was the topic that felt most prevalent and at hand to help those of you out on Mother's Day, whether it's a happy occasion and happy, wonderful day for you, or whether it's a triggering day, a day in which you may need more healing. Either way, today's session is going to be filled with insights that any time of the year will help impart wisdom to you and help you step forward in your journey. And I am so excited for you to be here today. Before we get started, truly, let me thank those of you who are returning listeners here at Chat and Channel Session. And to those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Danielle, #damsel at D's Enlightened Edits of damseldesigns.com. I am your energy editor, lifelong spiritual and psychic medium, quantum psychem and shamanic energy healer, life and consciousness coach, metaphysical teacher, energy artist, writer, and so much more. And this is Chat and Channel Session, where my guides, and in some cases some of you, present me with a topic and we do a stream of consciousness channeling on it. If you would like to participate in the chat portion of Chat and Channel Session, provided that you are not driving or operating heavy machinery, of course, feel free to do so by leaving a comment, question, or review, and or my favorite way for you to participate, which is by doing some stream of consciousness writing along with me as I channel in a journal or the notes app on your phone or favorite device, so that you can start to take down some of your own intuitive hits and insights that will be specific to you and the information we are channeling on today, in an effort to help you puzzle piece this information into your own life. Should you need more help, perspective, and or spiritual support in this, you can always find me and reach out to me on my website, Damsel Designs. That's DAMCL Designs.com, where you can purchase quantum and Akashic Records reading sessions, shamanic dream interpretation, energy art, digital downloads, and more, and where you will find an application form for those of you who want to take this to the next level and deep dive on transformational energy, healing, and consciousness coaching work with me. We will build you a custom container specific to your soul's needs at this time to truly heal and connect you with more of the dots of the divine design. So now that you know where to find me, let's get back into today's topic at hand. First of all, what is the mother wound and why is it so common, especially among those of us who identify as empaths, highly sensitive, or spiritual people, or caretakers or nurturers to any degree? Well, the mother wound, in my opinion and experience, is a wound that affects our ability to self-regulate, to self-soothe, to have self-worth and self-value, to self-love. It is really about the nurturing, giving, and receiving aspects of our psyche and our personality. But it has reaches far beyond that. It can even go into the ways in which we manifest and grow our bodies and our brains, because it comes from the fact that when we were young, even starting as in utero, which I have a previous Chat and Channel session all about the most common limiting beliefs that arise from childhood and in utero that you may want to check out from a few weeks ago. But after in utero, that period of babyhood, of infancy, of early childhood, especially if we go through periods with our mother or our mother figure, the person designed, even biologically designed, to give to us and nurture us, right? They give birth, they give milk, they give food, they give care. And if this person, who is the primary person that we develop a relationship with, in the most ideal of circumstances, of course, if they fail to meet some of our needs or most prevalent wants, if they neglect us or misunderstand us or make us feel misunderstood, whether that is intentional or unintentional neglect, then we can develop coping mechanisms and survival strategies that become the mother wound. We can do things and create belief systems that try to cry out for attention or to supplement the things that we are needing to get the attention of the mother back on the things that they are supposed to be doing or that we're needing them to do. And if and when that fails, the wound can deepen. We can develop these coping strategies and sometimes unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms to try to help us survive that childhood experience where the mother, for whatever reason, is not meeting our needs. Now, these reasons can be vast and varied. My sessions are never to place blame or shame. That is entirely unhelpful in healing. There can be a myriad of reasons why your mother didn't meet your need. Some of them can be personality disorders that are quite severe in their brain, in their soul, or in their body, like narcissism or BPD. Some of them can be dealing with their own trauma or the unwillingness or inability to deal with their own trauma and having that affect you. Some of it could be their busyness level or their lack of provision for themselves, for the family, for the support system. They could be busy with siblings, with a career that takes them away from you. There could be so many reasons, both willing and unwilling, why your childhood needs did not get met by your mother. Most commonly, it's a misunderstanding of the needs that a baby actually has, and or a time when someone became a parent before having the willingness, time, energy, resources, or ability to deal with their own issues, to work on their own healing, or to get their own mother wound or father wound met and healed before becoming a parent themselves. And thus, they will start to pass those things down onto you. And if this has happened to you, again, whether your mother was a wonderful person or not, you can develop these ways of coping that fall into the mother wound category. So what are some of those ways and some of the ways that those things have come about? Well, you might have relationships in your life that mirror the pattern that was set by the relationship with your mother. So if you had a difficult relationship with your mother, whether that was a relationship that was reverse parented and you became the caretaker, whether that was an absentee mother or parent that just never seemed to be around and thus you have an abandonment wound, or whether they were around but emotionally or mentally unavailable to you, that would also count as an abandonment wound. There could also be things like them being the best friend mom, which in its sense is a way for them to skirt the responsibility of motherhood and take on the role of friend instead. And that responsibility needs to be met somewhere, so it ends up being taken on by you. And so you can develop relationships with other people, most especially women in your life, where that can mirror the pattern that was formed in early childhood up until teens, most likely with your mother. This can also mirror in things like having a critical mother or someone who was critical but always blamed it on, oh, I'm just joking, you're too sensitive, and noticing that you attract a lot of those types of people in your life or continuously allow them in your life. The mother wound can also result in the child becoming a people pleaser. If the mother was absent, if they were critical, if nothing ever seemed to be good enough, or or if they had this reversed parental role where you became the caretaker because they seemed to have a lot of need, things that they weren't dealing with, or their own issues or life circumstances that they always seemed to need help with and weren't able or willing to step up to the plate in that adult role, you could have taken on that role in childhood to become the caretaker and to become the people pleaser. In other words, you would feel like their needs or the needs of the family were the priority. This is how you were probably made to feel in childhood, because if you didn't take on that role, things would be so much more chaotic and dangerous for you that it was actually a survival or coping mechanism for you to become the people pleaser or highly sensitive empath, able to pick up on and understand feelings in order to keep yourself safe. Because when you developed this ability, or when you took on this role of tuning into people's needs, becoming less of a problem, limiting your own needs under the name of being mature, or helping out by not having your needs met, but by placing the needs of your parent or others above your own, you were rewarded with a degree of things working out, with a degree of more calmness or a degree of more safety, which were always your parents' role to provide, but which became a role that you had to step into providing. And so you got used to it. You got used to the fact that life meant you had to become the nurturer, the prioritizer, the figure it out person, the people pleaser, and you learned the behavior that other people's needs and feelings mattered more than your own, and that you maybe had to squash your feelings or deal with them all on your own because your parent was not willing or capable of doing that for you in the ways that motherhood especially is meant to help you with, to mirror love and nurturing and unconditionalness and understanding onto you. And if you didn't have that because your parent simply didn't know how, or was too busy, not present, or unwilling to, then you probably developed this role that said, gosh, it hurts so much to not be understood, to not be prioritized, to not be taken care of, to not be pleased, to not be validated, to not be listened to, whatever the things are that hurt you. And so you vowed to not do that to other people, but in an effort to be good, or what you thought of as good, and not do it to other people, and to make sure that they felt loved and seen and validated and helped and prioritized and taken care of, you put all those needs and all those people's needs before your own. And you developed this belief that you always had to come last in order to be good, and that the way to be good and the way to be loved and to be respected was to be that people pleaser, to never say no, to always say that your things could wait, that okay, fine, I'll do it even if I don't feel like it, even if I don't feel good, even if I can't, I'll figure out and find a way to do it and make it work for you, because that's what you had to do for those other people in your life, most especially your parents or sometimes siblings if they were not being taken care of by the parent either. And so this is where we develop the empathic phenomenon of the caretaker, of the nurturer, of the overgiver, and the limiting belief system and pattern that says that it's so much more important and or easier to take care of others' needs than it is to take care of our own. We develop these healer of the world mentalities, and while we can develop skills and gifts and talents and techniques that become so essential in our societies and in our communities and in our missions, if we don't somewhere along the way learn to balance that by also fulfilling our own needs and prioritizing our own needs and allowing the receive of others to be there for us the way that we are there for others, we will eventually burn out suffer, get sick, die young in extreme cases, right? I was reminded before doing this channeling of someone I love very much and have worked with spiritually. You may have seen a previous chat and channel session about her, actually. Princess Diana, who I believe and know to be a healer in her own way and in her own right. And in that dreaded BBC interview that she gave, no affiliation with the BBC, of course, and I do love them, but in that 96, 97 interview, I believe it was, she spoke about her belief that the biggest thing she thought the world suffered from was the feeling of being unloved. And that is why she made it such a priority to spend time with people and energy with people, whether that was physically, for even for just a few seconds or moments in a delivery or assembly line or in a hospital visit, so that they would feel loved. And she had this abundance of love to give to others, to give to the world's children and the world's suffering, to give to her own sons. But of course, we know that her own personal life, she had a lot of struggles. She had a lot of issues with confidence and self-love and self-regulation and self-soothing, which developed and manifested itself into things like eating disorders and other mental health struggles and issues, which thankfully she also spoke to the world about. So I'm not talking out of turn here, and she strove to help others with those things as well. But you can see that this rather extreme example can happen within so many of us, right? We can be the perfect people pleasers, the most splendid and talented healers, caretakers, nurturers, advice givers for other people. But then when it comes to ourselves, we can have so many more struggles than people could realize. And it could feel so much more difficult to help ourselves than it is to help others. And this, in my opinion and experience, especially as an energy healer and Akashic Records and ancestral healer, is that the roots of this stem from what we were just speaking about how we were taught to prioritize others' needs before our own. Most of us were probably also taught that it was selfish to ask for things or to need things or to put ourselves first, even if that wasn't explicitly said. It was implied by maybe facial expressions of the mother or the parent, or huffing under the breath, or anger or fear or sadness about not being able to provide those things. And so we were taught that the things we want or need are either unimportant or very difficult. Now, we could be taught this by life circumstances in terms of how we had to take on these roles for our parents, or we can also be taught it by our lives being taken care of, but by seeing that our mother did not know how to take care of herself. So it could be either of those or a combination of both, because if we are not also given a proper example of how a person, and especially a woman or a mother or a caretaker of any gender, can take care of themselves and prioritize their own health and hygiene and needs, etc., then it can feel like it's difficult for us to do that when we start to try to develop those patterns and practices within our own lives and body. And so these are the roots and the ways in which we learn that our needs are either very difficult to fulfill. In a sense, this also makes it difficult to manifest things, or we learn that our needs and wants shouldn't be a priority, which makes it very difficult to receive things. And this is why the mother wound, which is also all about giving and receiving, can develop where we find it difficult to receive in most capacities, whether that's receiving from ourselves or receiving from others and relationships. Like we were talking about, you may have developed a lot of relationship patterns where people treat you the way that your mother or caretakers tended to treat you, or it could develop in a hardness of receiving in any capacity, because especially if we were made to be the doers during a time period in our lives when we were literally designed to be receivers. Children are meant to be receivers, right? They are meant to grow and expand, but they are not supposed to be doers until a certain growth level, until a certain age. They are literally designed to receive. Our brains are literally picking up on information rather than creating it. And even though a child may have imagination, which can create, the majority of the time, the brain and the body are set to receive modes. Play becomes a time to explore, but for the most part, we need more receive than give in our childhoods. It's biologically determined. And so if during that term and during that time period, we are asked to do more than we receive, or have a great deal of lack in terms of our receive and our needs being met, then we can slip also more into the wounded masculine energy, because the masculine energy is the doer, and we can have a difficult time being in that feminine energy of receiver for ourselves, even though it can at times feel more comfortable to be in the feminine energy as a giver or a nurturer. Again, that would more so be when we're doing that role for other people. And so we can have a very wounded sense of self and difficulties with self-love and self-worth and self-value, because we start to see ourselves as only valuable based on what we are doing to others. And again, that is a belief system that can develop based on us having those roles and those woundings and those traumas in childhood, or based on seeing the illustration of a mother whose only value or appreciation stemmed from what she was doing or overgiving to and for others. And this is where our sense of self can get clouded, and where we can mirror these things in our adult lives, in our careers, in our spousal relationships, and even in our relationship with our higher power or the universe at large, in terms of actually receiving for those things that we do and the talents that we develop. This is also why a part of the mother wound can make one feel like an imposter, no matter how accomplished you become in your life. If there's still this wounded inner child part of you that's crying out for validation, appreciation, attention, you can feel like an imposter even in circumstances where you are the master in the room, because there's still that part of you that hasn't dealt with the fact that for the most fundamental of things that you were supposed to be loved and appreciated for, you may not have had that from the beginning. And so no matter what you do in life, until you look back and are able to see and heal that root, you can have these anxious feelings like imposter syndrome later on. This can also result in low confidence and low self-esteem, or feeling like you have to do things perfect in order to be appreciated, or that you have to be seen as perfect in order to be valued, respected, or appreciated. These can also develop from things like having a critical mother, having an absent mother, all of these ways in which you were told or shown in childhood that if you were making a mess, if you were being a problem, if you had needs that they couldn't meet, or if other people judged them as your parents based on you and your appearance and your behavior, and they took that to heart, you could have developed this need to put on a front, or to be perfect, or to show up as perfect before you were allowed to be seen and valued as who you were or what you were experiencing. As we discussed, you can also have become overly sensitive, hypersensitive, or empathic based on the mother wound and based on difficulties that you experienced with your mother in childhood. Now, she could have been taking care of your every need, But if she didn't know how to take care of her own energy, if she was narcissistic, if she was codependent or BPD, or just had a lot of stress and chaos and turmoil or trauma in her own life and energy, if she didn't know how to self-soothe, you weren't given an example of how to understand your own feelings and self-soothe. And if she couldn't soothe you in moments when you needed it, you can have developed a relationship where you unhealthily learn to cope and self-soothe. This could be by doing things like isolating because you can't trust others to be soothing or kind or nurturing to you, or it could be unhealthy soothing coping mechanisms such as supplementing what you didn't get from your mother in childhood with alcohol, substance, eating, overeating or undereating. Or this could also be things like addictive behavior in any capacity, such as overdoing or underdoing anything, including screen time, constantly diving into comfort books or music or movies to soothe and regulate. And while those things could be helpful at times and to a degree in self-regulation, obviously not the drugs or substance, but while some of those other things could be helpful in terms of self-soothing, most of us who develop and have this mother wound will over or underdo those to a degree where it's unhealthy because we were never shown balance or how to use tools or our own energy or emotions to soothe, to understand and show up for and appreciate our own feelings or emotions. In parenting in general, mirroring the feelings of a child are extraordinarily important. There have been hundreds of scientific studies regarding the mirroring of a mother's face or a caretaker's face to a baby. And babies are so sensitive to any degree of disapproval in that face, and we start to form beliefs around that. And so even if they were doing their best to soothe us, but they didn't have a support system and they were at their wits' end, if we picked up on that and made it as though it was a problem or we were a problem for having colic or having, inability to sleep or having stress or whatever, and our mother didn't know how to regulate or didn't have access to a support system for their own emotions during that time of trying to soothe us, we could again develop that belief that it's difficult to soothe ourselves, that we have to over or underdo it to try to supplement or make up for that which we didn't receive properly in childhood. Now, in saying all this, I also want to reiterate the fact that these sessions are not to place blame or shame on any mother or parent who has perpetuated these wounds on. In most cases, as I've been trying to explain, people perpetuated these things because they didn't have access to their own support systems, to their own understandings, to their own healings. Sometimes they had an unwillingness and it was intentional neglect, but in almost all cases, it's also rooted in the person's own trauma, whether that is known or unknown to them. Now, this does not remove responsibility from them or give them an excuse to have hurt anyone or passed on any hurt. But if we can come to that understanding, then we can remove the focus from so much of how they may have hurt us and put it back on the fact that, yes, we may have been hurt or neglected. We may not have gotten what we needed in childhood, and that resulted in certain behaviors, patterns, belief systems within us. And once we can accept the fact that it happened, we don't have to appreciate or forgive how it happened, but once we can accept the fact that it happened, understand some of the reasons why it happened, and have some compassion for the fact that, yeah, they weren't the people that we wanted or needed them to be. They may have been that because of their own insufficiencies, traumas, needs, etc. And it doesn't make it right. It doesn't give it an excuse, but it also doesn't need to condemn them or put all the energy and focus on blame and shame, because the truth is we need that energy. we need that energy back so that we can work on healing these patterns and belief systems that may be wreaking so much havoc in our lives by continuing to play in the background of our mindset, in the background of our heart, in the background of our bodies even. Because the truth is, because our mothers also grow our bodies in the most ideal of circumstances, of course, we continue to develop and grow our brains and bodies and chakra systems and so many things. Up until age 7, we're growing our chakra systems. Up until age 25, we're growing our brains. So as we continue to grow, these things can also manifest, and these experiences or neglects or lacks or traumas can also manifest in our physical body. As we were talking about, it could make things like hygiene difficult or feel tiring or unprioritized. It can make us learn that it may be more helpful to manifest a sickness. Now, how is that? This is something I found incredibly common and experienced myself. If we had mothers who were so much wrapped up in their own chaotic energy or in the chaos of what was happening in their own life or family or career, and we just felt that chaotic energy all the time, not only could we have developed the reverse parent role or the people pleaser role to try to help them in an effort to help and protect ourselves, right? Because we knew that we wouldn't be safe if they, as our caretaker, weren't helped and saved. So we learned to try to help them in order to help ourselves. But we can have also learned that if we really, or when we really wanted and needed their attention, sometimes the body creates a self-survival mechanism, a tension grabber of creating or allowing a sickness. Now, this can happen in terms of stressed or sad individuals simply not developing enough of a healthy immune system, which does have roots in our emotions, or it can also be obviously from any neglect or malnutrition. But most primarily and most commonly, we develop this belief that once we've tried everything else, once we've tried the people pleaser, once we've tried to meet their needs and help them and, prioritize their feelings and needs and energies over our own, if those things didn't work, or if they were absent and busy with other siblings or with their career or other family members, what have you, if we tried all these other kinds of things to get their attention, to get our needs met, and those things didn't work, then the body can sometimes create this survival mechanism of creating or allowing sickness within the child to get the parent's attention. And actually, a lot of people who grew up with abusive parents, neglectful parents, or parents who had personality disorders or issues such as narcissistic personality disorder or BPD, etc., will tell you that the most loving moments or the most nurtured moments that they remember having with their parent was when they were ill or injured or in danger of some kind as a child, that somehow that would shake them out of this pattern that the parent had developed in terms of being cruel or neglectful or misunderstanding, etc., and the parent would be there for them. Now, of course, it happens in other capacities too, not just with neglectful parents, also with busy parents or parents who aren't able to be around, and the soul or the body develops this thing and says, hey, let's try a last-ditch effort and call out to, their humanity or to their biology as a protective nurturer or parent and see if by us getting sick, that will bring them back around or encourage them or make them learn how to meet the needs in order for that to not happen again. And in most cases, what happens is, yes, the parent shows up and is helpful or nurturing or understanding or gives the kid a break at least during those periods, right? Many of us were worked a lot as children or asked to do things and take on a lot of responsibilities as children that were not quite our place yet to do. And during the time that we were injured or sick, that was maybe the only time that we remembered being taken care of or being given a break or being given our own time. And so we can develop this pattern and habit that if we don't listen to those feelings that our body gives to say, take a break, replenish, refuel, rehydrate, get something that you need, etc. If we don't listen to those cues and we get into those levels of burnout, this could be where we create patterns of burnout and sickness in our lives, where then we need to get our own attention. Our soul and body needs to get our attention by creating sickness, which is the very thing that we did in childhood. Now, of course, none of this is intentional. I'm not blaming anyone who creates this pattern. I've done this pattern myself, so absolutely no blame or shame there on you. But I wish that I had understood it earlier in my life, because once you understand that that is something that you did or developed in order to simply be respected or taken care of, or be allowed to live with the cycles of life, which were balanced between doing and receiving, or giving and receiving, or doing and resting and replenishing, then you can start to actually live the way that your body was designed. Your nervous system is designed to do, and then you also have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is about rest, reset, replenish. So then once you understand this, you can actually develop more of a healthy life and body. You can do things like rebuild your immune system and rebuild your patterns of behavior and points of attraction, because you understand the belief that has said for so long, I'll only get a break when I'm sick, I'll only be taken care of when I'm sick or hurt, etc. Or that's the only time I'm worthy to have a break or to be taken care of is when I'm sick or hurt. And if we have developed that belief because those were the only experiences that we knew to be true in childhood, if those were the only times that we knew to be valued and to be respected or to be finally appreciated or seen for all that we are and do, then it's very difficult not to carry those beliefs forward into our adulthood. They get pushed in the background, they get pushed into becoming unconscious beliefs, and sometimes people live off of that validation and off of that sickness capacity, and they develop these chronic or lifelong conditions, not by conscious choice, of course, and not to be bad people and not even to be victims, but they develop them because there's so much of this childhood need that was not met, that was not respected. And so they feel like they are continuously on some level trying to meet that need and trying to take the responsibility off of themselves later in life when they would normally be capable of it, because of that overwhelm or overburden or lack of replenishment and respect in childhood. And so we can develop these chronic conditions or reoccurring conditions in an effort to try to get our own attention the same way we tried to get a parent's attention in childhood. And until we can see that, it's very difficult to break the pattern of illness or injury. This is why people can seemingly have unrelated illnesses or chronic illnesses or injuries, but they will be reoccurring or perpetuating, right? And yes, of course, there are bodily things associated with this. Please never take mental health or spiritual information as a substitute for professional medical treatment when needed. But if you work your professional medical treatment angle and trusted doctors and medical professionals with this spiritual and energetic and mental health perspective at the same time, you are coming at your healing from all sides, from all angles. You are supporting your psyche as well as your body, developing more of that mind-body connection. And this is when you can truly heal, when you can truly heal and replenish your systems, whether that's your immune system, your organ system, system, whatever it is for you, whatever the issues are for you, it can be difficult to only work them from one angle. So please never take spiritual information as a diagnosis or as a substitute for medical treatment. But I encourage you, if you are someone like myself, and this is really common among empaths who have struggled with autoimmune disorders or other difficulties, search for the roots here in childhood, in what we are discussing, and in the mother wound especially. Perhaps some other time we will have a session on the father wound and how that could impact as well. But so much of the nervous system and of the immune system can be linked to things like empath overwhelm and empath oversensitivity, and the roots of those can also lead to how that developed the wounded empath within us based on the mother wound and based on these neglectful or traumatic experiences in childhood. This is where I also teach people that everything has a spiritual reason, root, or implication or lesson in it. And while it's not healthy to only work it from the spiritual angle, of course, you have to work the physical as well. Once we understand what energetics may be at play to develop certain diseases or patterns or beliefs within our life, then we have more of the power to change it and to also be a road opener to allow whatever we do in the physical to work and be well received. This is also where even good doctors will tell you that if someone isn't in the right mindset, a lot of them will try to wait the surgeries until they're in a better mindset so that they can actually play a role in their own healing and whatever the surgeon is doing. So these things have a lot of implication, and I'm so excited for those of you who have also suffered with physical conditions to understand that this may be the missing puzzle piece that you've been searching for to help you heal that. And as we start to wrap up for today, I did want to mention one more issue that could be the result of the mother wound. This could be a lack of trust. If we didn't develop that trusting and healthy relationship with our mother in early childhood or even in utero, it can be very difficult to trust others, or especially to trust the world. I even have an older chat and channel session where we discuss how your relationship with the universe and with your higher power at large can be based on your relationship to a degree with your parents. This one is an older chat and channel session actually from before I was uploading across all the platforms, so you will find that as of now exclusively on my YouTube channel at D's Enlightened Edits in the chat and channel sessions playlist quite a ways back. It is entitled Your Secret Relationship with the Universe, God, Goddess, Source, Deity. And there is also an older chat and channel session entitled Stop People Pleasing, all about the fawn trauma response that I'm sure some of you will find helpful. So if you want to expand on these things, you can always listen in on those chat and channel sessions as well. But as I was saying, if it was difficult for you to trust the behavior of your maternal caregiver, especially the person who was literally designed to caretake you, if you couldn't trust them because they were erratic or they were neglectful or they were busy or they were just inconsistent for any reason, whether that was their own personal issues or struggles, whether that was their other responsibilities, etc., if they weren't able to consistently be there for you, you can have developed a lacking relationship with trust, and this also links to your ability to receive, as well as your ability to reach out, to ask for help, to allow help, or to even receive the results of your manifestations, of the efforts of your work, of the rewards or payment for your work or for your efforts. This can again mirror itself in your relationships, in having you have many imbalanced relationships where you seem to be the overgiver or the overdoer, or it it can also result in a pattern where you feel like you have to always check the boxes, but maybe you never really enjoy those experiences of the things you're checking off your list because you were made to feel like you had to be so responsible, but also because you couldn't trust that anything good was necessarily going to come from completing those things anyway. So I want you to explore how any trust issues that you may have or any tendencies that you may have to isolate, etc., may be linked to issues from your early childhood. As I said, there is another chat and channel session about the most common limiting beliefs of in utero and early childhood that you may also find helpful. And my loves, I am actually going to start to close our session there for today. I don't want to overwhelm you. I know those of us who have had issues with the mother wound can also have a dysregulated relationship with our own nervous system. So I encourage you to explore levels of nervous system healing as well. And in addition to understanding the roots of all these behaviors, the most important thing that you can do to work towards the healing of these issues and wounds yourself is develop a relationship with your inner children. Begin reparenting yourself and nurturing yourself the way that you wished you were parented and loved and nurtured and respected, the way that seems to be so easy for you to teach others or help others with. Start to turn that in on yourself and work on the fact that you may feel uncomfortable for a while saying no to others or deprioritizing others in order to prioritize yourself. But I want to encourage you to remember that you can give to others most freely, most fervently, and most powerfully in a lasting way when you are pouring from a full cup rather than from an empty one. So what would that look like for you? And trust the universe, or learn to trust the universe, that those other people will find another source to take care of them or to meet their need while you are making the sole sovereign decision to learn the practice and process of meeting your own needs as well, or allowing the facilitation of those needs to be met by cultivating healthier relationships and or by asking for help and allowing that help when you need it from trusted sources. Should you want to explore that help with me in a spiritual capacity, as I said, you can start off with a reading available on my website anytime at Damsel Designs. That's DAMCLdesigns.com. And if you would like to go even further into the healing of these things energetically, use that application form that's available on my website or in the links in the description to get in touch with me and see about building your custom container. I am going to close our session for today here, and thank you so much for being here today, beautiful soul. If you are listening to this around Mother's Day, I hope that it's a blessed day for you, whether that is a happy day or a healing day, and I hope that you will like this if you have liked it, if it has resonated and helped you today. Share it to others who you believe will find it helpful, and I would love for you to be or become a subscriber or a follower here at Chat and Channel Session. Remember, you can subscribe on YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, Google, iHeartRadio, and there's an additional feature if you subscribe as a listener on Spotify to become a low-cost monthly paid subscriber for additional content and to help support the channeling sessions of free and public works such as this. If you would like to support the channel additionally or besides Spotify, you can also do so through all amounts appreciated energy exchange and donations through www.paypal.me/DSEnlightenedEdits. Those are not necessary, but they are really helpful in helping me upload across the platform. So thank you to those of you who support in that way and capacity. Remember, you can also follow me on Instagram at DSEnlightenedEdits for spiritual information and insights on the daily, as well as the occasional live video on there. And I hope to see you next time here at Chat and Channel Session. Be blessed and enjoy your healing with Love, Light, and LightCodes. Love, Danielle. #Damsel at DSEnlightenedEdits of DamselDesigns.com. Bye for now.